Hey everyone, how you doing? This is Amon Green, Green Bay Packers all-time leading rusher, and you're watching Packers Total Access Live, your daily source for Packer content. Go Pack, go!
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access, the Chicago Bears Collapse edition. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on Packernet.com. Find me on Twitter at Packers_access. So it is January 19th, obviously the day after the Chicago Bears lose in overtime to the Rams in the divisional round of the playoffs. And I thought we almost went live last night immediately following the game. I'm like, I'm going to get a good night's sleep and just enjoy this. We watched all the post-game press conferences and everything, and obviously just kind of took everything in with the Bears losing in dramatic fashion there with Caleb Williams throwing 3 interceptions. It's funny how that's not being mentioned much out there, right, in the mainstream media. All you see is the heroic 4th down throw in the back corner of the end zone where Cole Kmet pushes off on a DB, no call, which, granted, this playoffs, they haven't called that down the stretch, right? And there's already been some controversial officiating calls, obviously, but nonetheless, they will show that highlight over and over and over. Like, look how unbelievable Caleb Williams is, and they will refuse to acknowledge the fact that the reason the Bears lost that game last night, guys, 2 reasons. Caleb Williams throwing 3 interceptions, 1 in the overtime when they were right on the cusp of being in field goal range, completely choked. What did the narrative immediately shift to? It went straight to, the receiver didn't flatten his route off enough. Okay, got it. Another Caleb Williams excuse. They've done it all year long with Caleb. Now, listen, we're going to talk a little more detailed on Caleb's numbers for the season here in a minute, and I want to put a big bowl on this, and we're going to jump right back into Packers talk. If we have time, we're going to get into Elgton Jenkins cut or keep. We'll dive into that too. But when you look at his whole body of work, first of all, coming into the league, what did we say? When we broke down the scouting report on him, we said, man, this is a guy that's got elite arm talent. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's very, very he's got a lot of maneuverability. He's very, very agile in the pocket. He's a lot faster than people think, right? I think he's cracked 20 mile an hour 2 times. That's his superpower, man. Evading the rush, creating an extra window, and scrambling with the football. Well, what's the negative? He doesn't play on time. He doesn't go through his progressions. He is extremely inconsistent with his accuracy. All of those things proved true all season long. Now, the second thing that got the Bears beat is Ben Johnson going forward on 4th down, refusing to take field goals, right? Again, what did the final score end up being here? 20-17. I don't know how many 4th downs he went for, but man, oh man, like to have 6 points in field goals there, right? So again, he's done that all year long. It bit Dan Campbell in the ass all season long. We talked about it. When we broke down our power rankings, one thing I love about our power rankings, diving into some of the more important statistics throughout the season, is it kind of pops and tells you, okay, if the winning percentage doesn't match how the team's played in all the other important categories, probably bad coaching. That was Detroit. I mean, they look like, if you just looked at their passing game, if you just looked at their running, if you looked at their efficiency, right, it was like, man, the Lions had a great season. But you look at their winning percentage, you go, why is their winning percentage so low? That's typically why. It's because you're choosing to go for it on 4th down and leaving points out there on the field, not taking the 3 early in the game, right? Ben Johnson did it all season long, and it magically fell into place. And then lo and behold, bang, biggest game of the season, it bit him in the ass. Caleb Williams, 3 interceptions. Ben Johnson being too aggressive going forward on 4th down. That was the story of the game for me. So obviously you see the Rams came out on top 20-17. Everybody was saying, man, it's going to be those late, second half heroics by the Bears. They scored 7 points in the second half. They didn't score any points in the third quarter, right? So essentially what happened was, once again, their defense tightened up on the Rams, didn't like a lot of the calls. I thought Matthew Stafford played like cheeks, to be honest with you. Now, was it the hand banged up? I don't know. There were several times he missed receivers underneath. Shout out to Davante Adams. What a great clutch catch. And I think it was Jen Wright that said it here in the chat. I want to make sure I get it right here. I believe that's who mentioned it. There we go. Hoping Davante can get his ring. Otherwise, I'm excited for next season. Amen. Jen, that's who I'm pulling for is the Rams. Like, on the surface, Yeah, I like pulling for the Patriots. You guys know that. I like how they're everything's structured there. You got Elliott Wolf, Ron Wolf's son, that's the general manager. So you kind of pull them for Elliott. So those are kind of my two teams. I'd like to see the Rams, Patriots in the Super Bowl, then kick back and enjoy the game, right? But yeah, Devontae, hope he gets his ring. What one hell of a play that he made. Unbelievable. Chester Marco earlier in the chat says, wonder how many Bears fans will invade the chat this morning. The over-under set at 2. LOL. I probably won't even see it because I got the start and the super chats pulled up here. So you guys get your super chats in. I'll make sure I read them before the end of the show, I promise. Jen Wright says, all I kept thinking watching that game was Love outplays Stafford easily. LOL. Jordan Love, when you look at the playoff statistics, I think it's safe to say, now granted, he only played in 1 game and some of these guys have played in 2. Jordan Love was he played with the most efficiency of any quarterback in the playoffs so far. He was lights out, 4 touchdowns, no picks. It's just it's a shame that the Packers defense couldn't hold on there in the second half. Jen Wright, and Caleb has thrown the same amount of interceptions as Love in half as many games. Again, we're going to talk about Caleb stuff in a minute. We're going to see how the internet reacted to the Bears loss, which was hilarious. Nick McSwain says the Packers social media talks. You'd think, and I think he's talking about fans, of course, you'd think teams can't play defense if there's a lull in the offense. I wonder if they've watched any of these playoff games. See, that's the thing too, Nick. Like, that's spot on. Just because the offense struggles, that doesn't mean it's an excuse for the defense. Oh, well, no, they're tired. That's the – man, seeing how many fans truly believe that made me cringe. I was just like – and I don't comment on other people's tweets. I'll comment if somebody asks me, but I try not to comment on their tweets and oh, you're wrong. I didn't, I'm not going to knock on somebody else's door and let me tell you why you're wrong. It's just not how I am. But it's so cringy to hear that excuse. It's like anything to try to bend it towards it's Matt LaFleur's fault. It's just really, really, really strange. So I agree with that. Chester Marco, as a general rule, I think the quote, they got lucky thing is weak sauce. But the Bears caught about every break imaginable this season. Yeah, some people say lucky. To me, it's a law of averages, right, Chester? Like, eventually stuff is going to catch up to you. Everything's not always going to go your way, Now, the thing that's a positive about how Ben Johnson calls a game and they're overly aggressive, you can't hit a home run unless you swing the bat. He's trying to swing as many times as possible, right? And he's doing that on 4th down rather than deciding to take the 3 points. Now, it's different if you're outside of field goal range, your kicker's a little shaky, whatnot, right? But yeah, that's what ran out on him is all the times that we've seen Caleb Williams throw into coverage this year and he somehow threaded the needle, right? Well, last night it bit him in the ass, 3 interceptions. All the times that we've seen Ben Johnson go for it on 4th down and it didn't really come back to bottom at the end of the game, it finally bit him, right? That's exactly how that happened. So some people say luck. I think it's more about, like I said, a law of averages. Nick McSwain says, or if you're like the Bears, pretty much every single YOLO play, etc., bounce their way. LOL. That's the other thing, too. You guys remember coming into this season, we talked about on this show, don't expect to have as many turnovers this season as we did last year. That's fluky, guys. That stuff is very, very fluky. That's why you can get in trouble judging how good a cornerback, how good you think a cornerback is by just looking at their interceptions. That stuff is like that will mislead you quicker than anything. You need to know what's their passer rating when targeted. How many penalties do they commit? What's the completion percentage when they're targeted? All those things, right? How many yards are they giving up per target? Those are the important statistics when judging a cornerback, not the interceptions. Same thing applies to just a team metric. Yes, you want to get turnovers and you want to protect the football. We talk about it ad nauseum on the show, and we're going to continue to because turnover differential is that important. But when you get that many turnovers, don't expect the Bears to have that many turnovers next year. And also, when the Rams made the plays down the stretch to win that ball game, did you notice the reason they made like the quick little sit route on the blitz, where I think it was the 3 on the right? They might have been in the trips. It may be a dub set, but it was either the 3 or the 2. Just a quick little – it looked like he was going to run, maybe a fade or something, and just a quick sit down or almost like a half slant and a sit. You could tell he went hot because they fired off the edge. That blitzing, it's going to cause turnovers. It is. But, boy, you're going to get gashed too. And that's essentially what cost them on defense, in my opinion. Holmes says Cole Kmet so pushed off in the end zone on that corner route to get separation. Crazy throw, though. It was a crazy throw. And, again, I'm not trying to say that wasn't an amazing play by Caleb Williams, right? However, I literally when when I seen it go up in the air, I knew they were in almost like a quarters look, meaning there was 2 defenders on that half of the field. And I'm thinking, oh, this is getting batted down or picked. Maybe he makes a contested catch. The way the DB just kind of gave up on the play, and then they showed the replay back, and Cole Kmet, they're plastered, and he just kind of gives them a little shove, breaks off, makes the catch. If you're that DB, you got to plaster his ass. And here's the other thing, too, I will say. Was it offensive pass interference? He definitely pushed off. He pushed off. The defender was engaged too. But if I were to defend the refs for just a second, this playoff run, they've been consistent with this. They have not called that down the stretch. And maybe I'm wrong. You guys correct me if I'm wrong. But I feel like there's been way more 50-50 calls in that regard with offensive pass interference or defensive pass interference that they just kind of let go, where I'm like, that's pass interference, but they let them play through it. I'm okay if you call it both ways. But like the Packers-Bears game where we got, 6 or 7 penalties for 65 yards, and they had 2 penalties for 5 yards because one of those 2 penalties was actually a kickoff infraction where they just didn't hit the landing. So I was like, I can't handle that. You're calling it one way in that regard. They got what they wanted, but Sean McVay went out there and took the belt to ass. So I'm glad that it's finally over there as well. But I agree on the surface there, Holmes. He did push off. There's no doubt about that. Nick McSwain, seasons like the Bears this year, usually rubber band and bounce back the other way the following year, plus more tape on Ben Johnson and Caleb. And also, Nick, when you finish first in your division, your schedule is going to be much tougher next year, right? That's another thing that comes into play there as well. So keep that in mind. I think that's a spot-on take there as well. And then one last one here from Chester, and we'll get into the hilariousness that was on the internet with all the reactions to the Bears debacle. Chester Marco says it's discouraging to think that it is so, but Clay might have nailed it when he intimated that all things being equal, the league is going to favor the biggest markets. Yeah, that and the point spread. It's just so obvious. It happened all day yesterday. We were watching football, and I was pointing it out again yesterday, just sitting here watching. It's just like every time there's a controversial call, it happened the day before, right, or the night before with the Broncos and the Bills game. Every time there's a controversial call, especially when they have time to review it and everything, I'm telling you, 95% of the time goes in the direction to steer the score closer back to where the point spread is. And you're probably going, why is that? I'm a big live bettor. I love live betting, right? Because people will lose a little more interest, right, in the game if it's not as close to that. If you can get it back close to that line and that line's constantly shifting, that creates a little bit of anxiety for a bettor, a little bit of antsiness, right? Therefore, you're going to be more locked in. You're going to be more likely to hit, yep, I'm taking that right now before it changes. That's a reality of gambling, in my opinion, for people who like the live bet. And I know that's not everybody's cup of tea. So hopefully that makes sense. Let's get into some of these social media posts before we move on to the Caleb Williams segment and kind of talk about just how bad he was this year. Rams social media coming in hot immediately. I don't know if you guys have seen this video. Of course, they put the flat bill. They put the snapback on this kid. It says, Chicago fans, did the cold affect the Rams? And it said, wouldn't you like to know, weather boy? So I love that. If you guys have not heard that audio, absolutely awesome. Of course, they came back later to the LA Rams. You know, the big thing for the Bears this year was good, better, best. Good, better, best. Good, better, best. They put good, better, rest, and it was a video of a bear closing the door on their way out, right? Like, all right, see you, bub. Out of here. Social media team in LA with the Rams were phenomenal. Now, ghetto Gronk. All right. Boy, oh boy, ghetto Gronk. There's a lot of stuff they tweet that I go, man, that's over the line. This one cracked me the heck up. If you guys have never seen this video here, so first of all, Ghetto Gronk tweeted out, Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson arguing after Caleb threw a season-ending interception. Here's the video. I'm going to play it one time, all right? You get a good look at the picture there, right? Here we go. J. Cole says, this was hilarious. This is the best. Here he goes. Here's the video one time for you, all right? Again, this is Ben Johnson and Caleb Williams after Caleb threw the interception.
You didn't win in my yard.
Wait.
All of you.
Daddy, chill.
What the hell is even that?
So when I seen that come across the timeline, boy, oh boy, everybody's seen it, ain't they? Yeah, Jacob, what the hell is even that? 2-0 for this same thing. Oh, I love it, dude. The internet. And of course, you know, you get the cheese grater pick. I had to go in there and just throw a bottle of nail polish remover. I don't know if you guys seen Bears fans were going and getting their nails done before the game, right? To support Caleb. A bunch of grown ass men in there getting their nails and their toenails and fingernails painted and, you know, all that good stuff. So I just hit every single Bears tweet that was out there bragging last week with Caleb. Instead of holding the cheese grater, we're holding the nail polish remover there. Eli Berkovitz might have broke me up the most, man. This is a great follow over on X at Book of Eli _NFL. This is the one that I went to sleep on right here. Just very simple. Just a picture of Aaron Rodgers on that sit down he did with the comedians from, I think it was Barstool. And my man looks higher than three kites in the wind right here. And it's just a subtle grin, like, yeah, we'll go to sleep on that one. Everything's good. All right. Micah Parsons has entered the chat. So Micah got involved last night as someone tweeted a Photoshop of Caleb Williams playing volleyball down in Cancun. And Micah Parsons said, we all here now, with the crying emoji and the laughing emoji. So Micah is an excellent follow on X. You guys have got to make sure you give him a follow if you're not following Micah Parsons. Again, his handle is at Micah Parsons 11. You will not be disappointed. He'll tell you what's on his mind, and it's absolutely awesome. And then the last thing here, boys, I thought we were the only fan base that overreacted like this. So Hog, at Hog NFL, go give him a follow over on X. Fire Ben Johnson. Yes, that's right. You heard it here. Bears fans all over X last night. I mean, there was a bunch of tweets. I just grabbed one screenshot here. Tyler Opal, shout out to him. Fire Ben Johnson solely on the fact the theme of this entire playoffs has been take the points. We were just talking about it, right? So Tyler Opal, shout out to him. Give him a follow on X if you want to make fun. He's the one that kind of kicked off the party here, saying it's time to fire Ben. We're firing Ben Johnson now? Is that what's going on in Gary, Indiana? I mean, Chicago, Illinois. Is that really what's going on? We're firing Ben Johnson? Next tweet. Jake Seidel, I hope I'm saying that right. I apologize if I'm not. Fire Ben Johnson. Stupidity and being cute lost games. Stop running a halfback dive on fourth down. Kick field goals. # Chicago Bears. So Jake, I apologize, is ready to fire Ben Johnson as well. And then, of course, it looks like at Kivas Howell says fire Ben Johnson, fourth down decision to not take 3 field goals and lose by 3, and you definitely didn't want to win. You lost that game for us, I think is what he went on to say. So they, according to him, and he says he's him, I'm him, # I'm him, Kivas Howell says that it was 3 field goals that they refused to take. Ben Johnson refused to take, and they end up losing by 3 points. That's tough look, boys. That is a tough look. So that's kind of combing through social media. That's my quick recap of the game. We're going to dive into the specific details of Caleb Williams' stats next. Before we do, if you guys are watching this video back, let me know in the comments, how do you feel about Ben Johnson going for it on fourth down? What do you think really cost the Bears that game? It's a game they had a chance to win, and in my opinion, their quarterback crapped the bed, their coach crapped the bed, and that's the 2 most important aspects of a football team, in my opinion. Everything begins and ends right there. Let us know in the comments what you think. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you know when we go live in the future. All right, let's shift gears now, and let's talk a little Caleb Williams specifically. And I want to know what everybody thinks in the chat on this. This was really, it's mind-boggling. I knew what was coming. I put a tweet out, and that tweet, what I said in the tweet was basically all you will see all over ESPN tomorrow will be that fourth down throw from Caleb Williams. They won't talk about how he cost the game. Though they may mention it briefly, they're going to tuck it to the side, and it's just going to be, they've got to continue to hype up these large market teams like Chicago. You got to continue to build that hope. That's why it's so frustrating throughout the season. You feel like Chicago got all the calls. They were lucky, right? Now, everything kind of went their way, and it's not, I'm telling you, it's not a coincidence that the Packers got called for so many penalties, yet the Bears didn't get called for, what was it, 5 yards in penalty yards. And people go, how did you give up 25 points in the fourth quarter to the Chicago Bears? Well, it's a bunch of things combined, right? Edgerrin Cooper leaves the game. You're already down Micah. You're down Devontae. You got an undrafted free agent on one side at cornerback. You got a 7th-round pick on the other, right? Your most important position, you got a 4th-rounder and a 6th-rounder starting a defensive tackle. All these things, you had a 5th-rounder playing the majority of the snaps at edge. All those things come into play, and then when they get every single call, you got Austin Booker, I think it's his name, Booker, a pass rusher for the Bears. The second game in a row against the Packers, he led with the crown of the helmet on Jordan Love, no penalty flag thrown, but yet he was fined after the game, which is the league acknowledging that was illegal. Well, why didn't they throw the flag? How did they miss that one? Very, very convenient, right? So this is what they won't tell you, what ESPN won't tell you about Caleb Williams. These were his numbers yesterday. Again, shout out the Hog NFL. Caleb Iceman Williams was feeling dangerous versus the Rams. He was 23 of 42, 257 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He had a handful of sick throws, and boy, Chris Collinsworth, we were wondering, everybody was worried when Pat Mahomes finally decides to call it a career. Man, what's Chris Collinsworth going to do? He's going to be depressed. Nope, it's going to be Caleb Williams. If you listen to the commentary in that game, you would have thought Caleb Williams had 75% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, no pick. You would have thought he played like Jordan Love in the playoff game against the Bears. He was telling a story and painting a picture with his excitement as if Caleb Williams dominated this game, right? 17 points. His passer rating was 59.3. I repeat, passer rating 59.3. Caleb Williams had a bad passer rating and was significantly low. I want to say he was around 33rd or something. We'll talk about it in a minute specifically with the passer rating amongst all NFL quarterbacks this season. And this was even lower than that passer rating. Absolutely wild that people are looking at this like, yeah, Caleb's that dude. When is it going to become important to play with efficiency? When is it going to become important to be able to read a defense and get to the third read in a play? When's it going to become important to not make those stupid throws into coverage? Because, again, he may thread the needle on 1 or 2 of them, but I'm telling you, a large majority of those are going to go against the Bears and Caleb Williams. And I'm all for it. Here's the thing I'm worried about as a Packer fan. I'm going to be completely transparent right now. What I'm most worried about with what Ben Johnson did to this team this year and kind of turned them around, I'm terrified that they're going to actually realize and acknowledge, okay, Caleb's not the guy. If we had someone who was just, top 15 in adjusted completion percentage, or hell, top 20, if he was starting caliber in adjusted completion percentage, we would have been way more efficient as an offense, and our team is dangerous. Button up the defense and get a quarterback that can play within the scheme and play efficiently, the Bears will be one of the better teams in the league. I pray to sweet baby Jesus they don't realize that. I hope they give him the biggest extension, and I think Ryan Poles will, because, again, we're going into year 3 now, and everything we've seen on the college tape, nothing got better with Caleb on the things we were worried about. Don't get me wrong. His legs are still elite. He can make plays on the run. He makes those flashy plays. You're going to get that excitement, right? The one thing he did take a huge step, in my opinion, on this year was he matured a little bit. Like when you hear him at the post-game press conference and stuff, he's not as emotional, in my opinion. He's starting to get that under control. But Ben Johnson is kind of dragging the whole team down that with all the antics he had and showing his ass all season long, putting a target on their back, running their mouth, all that stuff. To me, that's something that's going to end up hurting them, because the majority of the season, you've seen them win 12 games. You've seen the Ben Johnson when they're winning. You guys go back and watch the first 4 weeks of the season when they were playing like cheeks. He was unraveling. He was trying to bully a female reporter on the sideline, getting in her face, getting smart with her and everything. You see him lean in and she's kind of leaning away. Go back and watch it. Go back and watch the tape. All of that press conference, getting snippy with the media members. It's one thing that I can say about Caleb Williams that's positive. He knows how to handle winning. When he wins, he seems kind of humble and even keel, right? Ben Johnson, he doesn't know how to win and he doesn't know how to lose. And I'm telling you, mark my words, that's going to bite them in the rear end eventually. Joe Thuney's going to be a year older. Eventually, that offensive line is not going to be absolutely dominant. Caleb Williams will probably demand $60 to $70 million per year. I think Poles does not want to be the, oh, crap, I missed on that. And these other quarterbacks like Drake May were absolute successes. And I think that's going to be something that's going to lead them to overpay for Caleb. I hope they do. Now, can he fix these problems? Absolutely. Will he? Only time will tell. But that's the thing that worries me about the Bears in the North moving forward. So with the playoff lights on this playoff season, how did Caleb Williams play? His completion percentage, 52%, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. I repeat, playoff statistics for Caleb Williams this year, okay, when the lights came on, 52% completion percentage, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. And, oh, by the way, he had the game-losing interception in overtime. All right, next on the list, quarterbacks EPA per play. These were the quarterbacks that made the playoffs this year, okay? And shout out to Wendell Ferreira for throwing this out over on X. Give him a follow at Wendell FP. Playoff quarterbacks by adjusted EPA per play. So this is, if I'm understanding the stat correctly, and I kind of looked it up, and I think this is how it falls, okay? EPA per play of just the quarterbacks who made the playoffs. Jordan Love, number 1, all right? Sam Darnold, 2, Josh Allen, 3, Caleb Williams, 4. So when you look at EPA per dropback, he's improving there, and that's an important statistic. What I typically look at is EPA per dropback, adjusted completion percentage, because EPA per dropback is kind of telling you the overall picture. How well are they playing the quarterback position? Caleb's playing it. You look at that and you go, okay, he must be playing it pretty well, right? Well, that's because it's including some of the scramblings. I mean, when you look at everything, that's EPA per play, not EPA per dropback, if I understand correctly. He's 4th. But when you throw in the adjusted completion percentage, you throw in the passer rating, you look at these interceptions in the most crucial times, not so worried. Nix was 5, Stafford 6, May 7, Young 8, Stroud 9, and Trevor Lawrence is 10th. So, again, Jordan Love leading playoff quarterbacks by adjusted EPA per play. Now, Matthew Golden versus Rome Odunze in the playoffs. You know how the Bears fans were talking about how Matthew Golden, he's absolute trash. He sucks. He's garbage. Well, when the lights came on in the playoffs this year, Rome Odunze, they're godsend at wide receiver, right? 4 catches, 88 yards, 0 touchdowns in 2 games. I repeat, Rome Odunze played in 2 playoff games. He had 4 catches for 88 yards and no touchdowns. Matthew Golden played in 1 playoff game, 4 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown. And he says, this is Ben Houselog on X said, am I doing this right? Because these are the type of numbers, the type of stats that Bears fans threw out all year long. They're going to hate to acknowledge this one right here, I promise you. Now, quarterbacks, regular season plus the playoffs. Let's talk about where Caleb ranks, okay? EPA per dropback for the entire season, including the playoffs. And that's, I checked this morning. If the numbers have been completely updated for the playoffs, I think they have, not 100% sure. Nonetheless, if it doesn't include the playoffs or it doesn't include last night's playoff game, you guys get the gist. It's pretty close. As a matter of fact, that would mean Caleb Williams would be even lower on these lists. So EPA per dropback, Drake May, number 1. Jordan Love is tied at first place with Drake May, both with a positive .21. Caleb Williams, 12th. Not horrible. He's about to break into the top 10 in EPA per dropback, right? You go, okay, that's pretty good numbers there. He finished the season with 31 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. Jordan Love finished with 27 touchdowns, only 6 interceptions. Jordan Love threw half as many interceptions as Caleb Williams did this year, okay? Next, passer rating. Jordan Love is 6th in the league in passer rating at 101.4. Where is Caleb Williams? 25th at 86.8 is where his passer rating falls. So again, Jordan Love passer rating, 6th best in the league. Caleb Williams, 25th best. He's not even a top 20 quarterback when it comes to passer rating. Let's talk about completion percentage, okay? Completion percentage, Caleb Williams, 57.3%. That's 33rd best in the league. Guys, he is not even in the top 32 in completion percentage. 57.3%. Could you imagine if the Bears, with a 12-win season, had somebody that finished just in the 63 or 64% range? Think of how many third downs they would have converted on those passes. Think of how many times they left yards on the field, points on the field, because Caleb Williams couldn't hit a bull in the ass with a mop. Like, his accuracy, you seen it last night. It's just, as soon as they started to get something going, he would air mail a ball. He would throw a worm burner, or he would throw it 5 yards over the receiver on an out route. Again, the inconsistencies of the accuracy. And you go, okay, what causes that? Most of the time, it's not a strong platform. It's bad passing mechanics, right? Everything comes back to the basics. Well, Caleb is very throw-off platform, right? It's going to be so hard to hone him in on the mechanics of throwing the ball. So again, 57.3%, 33rd best in the league. Now, Bears fans, when you bring that stat up, they almost always say, well, that's because the receivers are dropping passes. That's because of this. That's because that has nothing to do with Caleb. It's the biggest, fluffiest BS excuse there is. Let's go to adjusted completion percentage. This removes the noise. This removes the throwaways, the spikes, the receivers dropping passes, all of those things, right? This is strictly how accurate is the quarterback? Adjusted completion percentage, Jordan Love is not best in the league at 76.8. And I'm telling you, he is this close to being eighth best. So, again, top 10 adjusted completion percentage for Jordan Love with an 88.8 PFF offensive grade. Where is Caleb? We had to do two screenshots, guys. Caleb Williams finishes the season 69.8. 40, he's ranked 41st in adjusted completion percentage. Let me break that down for you guys. That means there are 9 backup quarterbacks. At least there's 9 backup quarterbacks. There's only 32 teams, right? So actually, I guess there's 10. No, there's not. Let's just play it conservative. Let's say there's 9. 9 backup quarterbacks who have a higher adjusted completion percentage than Caleb Williams. So what does that mean? There are 9 backup quarterbacks in the National Football League in the 2025 season, 2025-2026 season, that are more accurate than Caleb Williams. And again, can he fix it? The Bears better hope so, or this is going to be the common theme every single year because, again, that was in college, Clayton. When he gets to the pros, they'll get somebody working with him. He'll fix that. Okay, through year 1, the whole staff gets crap canned, right? Year 2, you bring in Ben Johnson. Oh, he's going to unlock Caleb. He's going to fix Caleb. It's still a problem. He's still not seeing the field completely. He's not going through his progressions. He's antsy in the pocket. One read, oh, no, I got to get out and move. Makes for flashy plays. But on a consistent down in and down out basis, this is going to be a problem unless they fix it. So, again, there are 9 backup quarterbacks that's more accurate than Caleb Williams. Thank you, Mike. I see the super chat. We're going to hit it at the end, buddy. Actually, we're at the end, so I appreciate you throwing that in there, man. So, again, that's Caleb Williams' numbers. That's how that looks. If you guys are watching this video back later, let me know what you think about Caleb Williams and how he matches up with Jordan Love specifically. I think we would all agree Jordan Love is the better quarterback than Caleb right now. Do you think Caleb can fix those problems? Do you think it's going to be a problem for the Bears moving forward? Do you kind of see what I'm saying? We're going into year 3. Is there a chance that the Bears have to make a decision next year or the year after? Now, they got the 5th-year option. They'll definitely hit him with the 5th-year option if they want him. But they got to make a decision. Do we want to give Caleb Williams $60 to $70 million per year? Think about it in 2 years, how big that number is going to be, which is it's exciting because Jordan Love against the cap next year, I think is $32 million. And I want to say that Lamar Jackson, you guys fact check this. I heard somebody say he's like $70 million against the cap. So anyway, let us know in the comments what you think about Caleb Williams moving forward. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. Let me hit the super chat from Mike, then we'll get into a little Elton Jenkins talk and get everybody on their day. Mike with the super says, Mike Z with the super says, can we talk about how humble Ben sounded and looked with McVay? What a clown, ran out of the sugar for his Kool-Aids he was drinking. I was cracking up too. And, there's 1 or 2 ways that Ben Johnson could, or I'm sorry, that Sean McVay could have handled this. Part of me wanted him to lean in and scream like Ben Johnson did when he did the handshake and be all unprofessional, like, yeah, take that, put that in your pipe and smoke it. Or you can outclass them and make them look this big. That's what McVay did. McVay just kind of gave him the handshake, did it the way he was supposed to. I cannot wait till owners' meetings. I think they're in February or March when owner meetings come and they get the big head coach picture together. Ben, it's kind of common knowledge now that the Lions were really, really, really rubbed the wrong way with the way that Ben Johnson went to a division rival. And it kind of, left the Lions to go coach for the Bears. There's a little bit of animosity there. You could tell that Ben Johnson and Dan Campbell don't have the same friendship. Maybe they'll button that up before the owners' meetings. We'll see. But one thing's for sure, Peter Schrager reported everybody in the Shanahan tree. I mean, think about this, guys. Kyle Shanahan, right? Matt LaFleur, Mike LaFleur, Robert Saleh, Mike McDaniels. I mean, it's on and on. Raheem Morris, if he gets a head coaching job again, I don't know if I doubt he will this year. But you've got this huge coaching tree. Peter Schrager said everybody in the McVay, that MFR stuff did not go over with the McVay tree. So when they get down there to the owners' meetings, Ben Johnson's going to walk in there after he was that smart ass all year, right? And then everybody going to finally be in the schoolyard on the last day of school with everybody that he's basically talked crap about or disrespected. Essentially, it's going to be we'll be giving you live coverage for that. I can't wait to see that picture. Now, can he fix that? Absolutely. Ben Johnson can fix that. He can reach out to Matt LaFleur, go, hey, man, I acted like an ass this year. That's my first year doing this. I let my emotions get the best of me. Yeah, you can do that. Will he do it based off of what he's shown us? I don't think so. They said it best the other day. I think it was Scott Van Pelt said it with Stanford Steve on ESPN. He said, you're running around acting like this, disrespecting. I'm paraphrasing. You're disrespecting people, and you've never won a damn thing. And we've got a saying down here in the South, act like you've been there, right? Like when you score a touchdown, act like you've been there. When you win a ball game, act like you've been there. Ben Johnson acts like he hasn't won a damn thing his whole life, and it shows. And that's exactly what SVP was saying. So anyway, thanks for the super chat there, Mike. Appreciate you, buddy. All right, guys, let's shift gears here real quick. And I want to talk about Elgton Jenkins. You guys know we've created an article over in our Patreon group where we're adding to it as we go through the offseason. And what we're doing with this is we are talking about the players. Now we're on to the potential cut/restructures. Okay. Three things are going to happen really, really quick. There's going to be a decision made on Jeff Hafley, and then we got to hire our DC and shuffle our coaching room around. We know Matt LaFleur's under contract now. It's reported Brian Gutekunst's deal. I've heard some people say it's pretty much done. Others said they're closing in on getting it done. It will get done. Nobody worry about that. Same thing with Russ Ball. So once that comes down, we turn the page, and now we're in what we call the re-signing period, okay? And what it means is expiring contracts, guys that are set to hit free agency. Will the Packers keep them or not? We already did a segment on that. Multiple segments. You can go find that video here on the channel, and you can find all the information in our Patreon group. We're trying to compile everything together in Patreon, so y'all have a quick little guide. Same thing we'll do with our draft coverage as well. And you can check that out, patreon.com/PackerFan Total Access. Kind of give my take a little bit in there and just break down the most important aspects of the offseason. So we're on to potential cut/restructures. You guys know we broke down Rashawn Gary the other day. We kind of talked about what his cap hit was, right? Basically, you could cut Gary this year. If you don't go post June 1, you can free up $11 million. You can free up even more if you move on with a post June 1 cut. We talked about when you looked at Rashawn Gary and where he ranked, he was basically our best edge defender in every statistical category this year, other than Micah Parsons, right? Micah Parsons is a freak. So yeah, you can decide to move on from him, and that may be the right case. I know I don't want Rashawn Gary back at $28 million per. If you can get that number down a little closer to 15, I think it would be worth it to keep him. But not at the detriment of taking snaps away from younger people. However, with all that being said, that's the first one we broke down. Now we're moving on to Elgton Jenkins. Okay, let's talk about what kind of savings we're looking at here for the 2026 season if we decide to move on from Elgton Jenkins. So his cap hit is $24.8 million. That's comprised of an $18.5 million base salary. He had a $4.8 million proration of the signing bonus he signed on his last contract. There's no roster bonus attached according to Spot Track. Active GM roster bonus there is a little bit different animal, but it's only $1 million, not a big deal. Workout bonus of $500K, no big deal. So all that $24.8 million. The dead cap attached to Elgton Jenkins is $4.8 million. All right. Now, what does that mean? If you cut, and notice there's not an extra year on his deal, okay? So he's not under contract next year. So the post-June 1 stuff doesn't even apply. There's no post-June 1 option. With Gary, there's 2 years left on the deal. You can spread that out over 2 years with the post-June 1 cut and kind of make that cap penalty a little less. That's why it's a little more enticing to say, okay, maybe we do get rid of Gary with a post-June 1 cut to free up even more money if we don't want him on the roster. But when it comes to Elgton Jenkins, it's the last year of his deal, $24.8 million with a $4.8 million day cap attached. What that means, guys, is you have $20 million in savings, okay? If they cut Elgton Jenkins outright, you automatically free up $20 million in cap space. Do you understand now why I tell people don't buy into the salary cap doom and gloom? If the Packers have a player or two they want to go get in free agency, they can do it. You can free up $20 million like that against the cap. Same thing applies with Gary. Like if you do a post-June 1 or post-June, I don't have over the cap pulled up, or I would give you the number. Let's say instead of 11 million freed up, it would be 15 million freed up. All right. Let's just say it's something like that or whatever, right? That you're deciding to spread out the cap penalty over the 2 years because you're going post-June 1. So let's say it's 15 million and you're freeing up 20 here. All of a sudden you just freed up in two swipes of the pen, you freed up $35 million. Okay. So that's why I say you're going to have people that want to get interaction, and it's kind of rage bait on Twitter. You'll see them, the cap gurus, will talk about, the Packers are in trouble with cap. They're 15 million over the cap. And you're going to see all that disappear in the blink of an eye. And then they'll immediately shift their doom and gloom, their fear porn. They'll immediately shift it to, well, it's gonna catch up next year. We heard that forever. And they made a transition from Aaron Rodgers with a $40 million dead cap hit. They made a transition from him to Jordan Love flawlessly. They went out immediately and got Josh Jacobs, Xavier McKinney. This year they went out and got Nate Hobbs and Aaron Banks, whether we think it's a good signing or not. I'm just telling you, don't let those people trick you into thinking that the Packers are screwed with the salary cap. It's not the case. So $20 million in cap savings if Elgton Jenkins is cut. So now we got to ask ourselves, guys, do we want Elgton Jenkins back? Before I look at the statistics, the rankings and everything, everybody in the chat, really, really quick, do you want him back, yes or no? Do you want Elgton Jenkins back, yes or no? Give me a yes or no answer. That way I can get everybody's opinion on the screen. I don't need a big, long, drawn-out excuse. Just yes or no. We want to hear from you right now in the live chat. Do you want Elgton Jenkins back on the roster next year at the $24.8 million cap hit? Yes or no? Let's rattle through it. Jake in the chat says no. All right. Let's see here. The handyman can. The handyman can. No, he says. All right. Kyle Andretti in the chat says no. Cheo Walker says yes. We got our first yes. Got it, Cheo. Appreciate it, buddy. Coach Lynn says no. Anthony, I know I'm going to screw the last name up, man. I always do. Anthony says no. 2-0 for this says no, yeah, no. Okay, got it, I think. Let's see here. Jen Wright says nope. Okay. Coach Lynn says, I want Linderbaum. Linderbaum's one of those guys that's really, really interesting, Coach, because many people think he's going to be a free agent. I don't know if he will be. And that's why we try not to get too deep into free agency too early, because we fall in love with these players and then their team just re-signs them. So if he's available, Linderbaum will be at the top of the list, no doubt about it. Jonathan in the chat says no. Let's see here. He went on to say no, he's too expensive. Got it. J. Cole says if he goes to free agency, I think we need to pay Linderbaum, then re-sign Ryan at guard, cut Jenkins. Got it. Appreciate it. Packer Doug, no. Holmes, no. So we got one yes, I believe, right? One yes. And that's I'm not taking a shot at who said yes. Listen, I can understand if you want him back. And we're going to talk about where he ranks. And then I want everybody to comment after the show. Let us know in the comments whether we changed your mind or not, or if it still stands. But Cheo, I respect the opinion, bub. All right, let's talk about what PFF says about our boy Elgton Jenkins. So according to PFF, amongst all centers removing the minimal snaps, okay, the minimal snap guys, I should say. So these are the guys that played a significant amount of snaps. Elgton Jenkins graded out as the 24th best center, according to PFF, okay? His grade was a 62.0, all right? Pass blocking grade, 72.5. Run blocking grade, 60.6. No surprise there. We always knew he was a better pass blocker than run blocker, okay? Although the run blocking grade, when you look up and you go, you guys remember the story, the theme of the year was we couldn't get the running game going, right? We could not get the running game going. Why couldn't we get the running game going? Because the offensive line was playing really bad, right? Jerry, I see the super chat. Thank you so much. We'll read them right after the segment, okay? You guys get your super chats in, and we'll hit those. I promise. You got my word. We will make sure we hit your super chats before we wrap up. So we're struggling to run the football. The offensive line's playing like cheeks. Now you got to try to comb through this information and find out, okay, why were we playing bad? Who was playing bad? Many people think when Elgton Jenkins left, all of a sudden that's when the offensive line fell apart. In my opinion, it was already struggling. Now, listen, was it struggling as bad? What you're going to find is with Elgton Jenkins and Sean Ryan, it's not that Sean Ryan is necessarily better than Elgton Jenkins. I don't think Sean Ryan is a better football player than Elgton Jenkins. Don't think he ever has been. Don't think he ever will be. However, Sean Ryan was not really good. He was better at run blocking than Elgton Jenkins. Elgton Jenkins was significantly better at pass blocking than Sean Ryan. Okay. So when you look at his career arc here, and I think this stuff is important, are we seeing a trend? Is he starting to decline? So Elgton Jenkins came into the league in 2019, and these were his PFF grades from his first year all the way up to the most current year. 69, 66, 82 gets the contract, right? 72 was the other PFF grade after that. So again, 69, 66, 82 was the peak, 72, 64, 65, now 62. So, and he played 538 snaps this year, guys. So it's not like it's a small sample size, right? So what you've seen here is the ceiling, the peak for Elgton Jenkins has been 82. That's a great grade, right? Now, what's the basement, if you will? Unfortunately, this year was his lowest graded year. So these numbers would suggest since 2021, you've seen a decline: 82, 72, 64, 65, 62. So that's just PFF grades. It's not everything. So let's dive a little bit deeper into the grades. Pass blocking efficiency rating, okay? He ended up being 25th best at center at efficiency. What's pass blocking efficiency? A PFF signature stat measuring pressures allowed on a per snap basis with weighted towards sacks allowed. Okay, so sacks mean a little bit more than pressures in this statistic. Okay, so what was his efficiency? His efficiency grade ended up being 98.0. He had 4 penalties, but a 98.0. That was 25th best amongst all centers. Okay, now important to realize, let's look at the top centers here. Eric McCoy with New Orleans, okay? He had a 99.4 efficiency grade. Creed Humphrey, that one hurts because we all know the story. Brian Gutekunst selected Josh Myers over Creed Humphrey. I think Creed Humphrey went like the very next pick or something. So I'm not here to be overly critical of Goody. I don't think Goody's a bad general manager, but again, the fact that people don't talk more about that, but Matt LaFleur all of a sudden is a horrible coach, will never make sense to me. When you handpick Josh Myers over Creed Humphrey, and Creed Humphrey came out again this year, 88.8 PFF grade. He stayed durable. He stayed healthy for the most part. A 99.3 pass blocking efficiency grade. His run blocking grade, guys, 88.5. Could you imagine if Creed Humphrey was the center for the Packers these last 5 or 6 years? I don't know, man. That's tough for me. The years that we had to put up with Josh, snap the effing ball, Josh, as Aaron Rodgers said on national television, right? Imagine if Creed Humphrey had been your center. If we're going to grade LaFleur harsh, and we're going to grade Jordan Love harsh, and we're going to grade our offensive line harsh, we damn sure better grade Goody harsh, right? And again, that was a huge, huge, huge swing and a miss is what that was. So again, Elgton Jenkins, 25th best center in efficiency. Now, let's go to pressures allowed. A little bit better number here. He's 14th in pressures allowed. He allowed 10 pressures according to PFF. Take it with a grain of salt. Go watch the tape yourself. Again, they don't attach specific plays earmarked so you can see whether you think it's a pressure or not. But nonetheless, Elgton Jenkins finished 14th in pressures allowed. That is not a top 10 center, in my opinion. When pass blocking is your strength at a 72.5, when pass blocking is your strength and the efficiency rating is 25th, the pressures allowed is 14th. I'm sorry. Like, that's supposed to be what you're great at. That's not good enough that you're not top 10. For $24.8 million against the cap, can't do it. Now, let's go to run blocking. What about run blocking? That's where we struggle the most, right? Check this out. When you talk about run blocking grade, just by itself, Sean Ryan finished 22nd this year, okay? 22nd. Elgton Jenkins finished 34th. So what does that tell you? Sean Ryan is a better run blocker as a center than he is a pass blocker. Elgton Jenkins is a better pass blocker than a run blocker at center, all right? But, however, both of them, in my opinion, are not starting caliber centers, okay? So when you take everything into consideration there, and Jenkins ranks outside of the top 32 in run blocking grade, and PFF isn't everything. What did our running game look like? Are there some? Yep, our running game struggled this year. I wonder why. Again, your starting center wasn't good enough run blocking. Your backup center wasn't good enough run blocking. I guarantee you Lasita Smith wasn't. Now, there's a little bit of something here. I want to say it was 50-some snaps. Jacob Monk actually graded out really well as a center. It's only 50-some snaps. That's not enough to sell me. Please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not going into 2026 going, Jacob Monk's our center this year. Maybe Goody sees it that way. I don't see it that way. It's too important of a position. It's the second tier of importance on offense, in my opinion. Quarterback, tackles, top priorities. Quarterback, top priority. Tackles, very, very close, but obviously top priority. And then center. We cannot continue to just go, we'll march out and average to below average center out there. It's no big deal. You can't do it. You just can't do it this year. So, again, you see Elgton Jenkins finishing there in the 34th spot. So, that's kind of the breakdown on Elgton Jenkins. With all that being said, here's how I would handle Elton Jenkins. Okay. Elton Jenkins, again, just a quick recap before we wrap up. And I'm going to get to your super chat, Jerry. Thank you so much. 30 years old. Elton Jenkins is 30 years old. So you can do one of two things here. You can restructure the contract, ask him to take a pay cut, but what's that number? Is he really going to take a huge pay cut? If we can't get Elton Jenkins' number down to about $10 million in cap hit, I don't want him. Now, you can convert a little bit to guaranteed money. You can do that. That magic number for me is 10. Sean Ryan, he's hitting free agency. That magic number to me is about $6 million. If you could get Sean Ryan back at $6 million per, with the cap hit would be about $4 million this year, I want Sean Ryan back. If you got to go as high as $10 million to get Sean Ryan, what you're doing is you're overpaying for, you're not even overpaying for good. You're overpaying for above average. Instead, we always say you're willing to overpay for great, never overpay for good. He's not even good. Neither of these guys played good this year. So that's how I see the center position. What I think you should do with Elton Jenkins is go to him with a restructure and say, hey, here's the number we got on it. He's probably going to get extremely pissed off and go, y'all, screw you guys. I want out. Remember, he held out of camp last year because he wanted a new deal. Good thing that we didn't do that, right? Hindsight being 22. I can't even remember what my take was in training camp, whether we thought we should do it or not. I may have been on board with doing it because I didn't want, the offensive line to be shaky going into training camp. But this is another reason, in my opinion, why they couldn't build any kind of cohesiveness. I see the super chat there, Nick. Appreciate it. We'll hit it in a second, man. So all that being said, if he says no, cut him, free up the $20 million. And then if he hits free agency, I would tell him, hey, come back to us with your best offer in free agency. Okay. We may be willing to beat it. Right. So if he goes to free agency and the rest of the league sees him this way at 30 years old and they say, you know what? No, man, the best we can do is a 3-year deal for $25 million with $8 million guarantees. It's essentially a 1-year, $8 million deal is what it comes down to. And he comes back to the Packers. I would be willing to give him a 3-year deal worth $9 million per and $9 million fully guaranteed. Because again, the cap hit is going to be below $10 million the first year. Second year, you might have a little bit of a dead cap, but for the majority of the contract, the guaranteed money will be gone. That would make sense for me. And again, if you do that, that doesn't mean Elton Jenkins is our starting center. No, that means, okay, that's kind of the floor. And I would approach both him and Sean Ryan the same way. First one to take the offer, that's who we'll keep. If we can get Sean Ryan on 3 years, $18 million, with let's say $5 million guaranteed, cool. Then essentially the first year of the cap hit's probably going to be about $4 million. You've got a solid backup center, in my opinion. And then you go on free agency, try to find your starter, because it's going to be hard to do it in the draft with no first round pick, right? That's going to be the tough part here. Now, Jake Slaughter is one that comes to mind for me. If you guys aren't familiar, center from Florida, there's a couple other guys that you might be able to get in the second round. That makes a lot of sense. Maybe you can hit on one of those guys. Because, I mean, the reality is when you look at some of these top centers in the league, went too far, sorry. When you look at some of these top centers in the league, who are they, right? Where were they drafted? How many snaps did they play? All these things matter. Like Eric McCoy from New Orleans, it doesn't show where he was drafted. I feel comfortable saying he wasn't a first-round pick. Creed Humphrey was a second-round pick, right? I don't know where Schlottman was drafted at. Zach Frazier was a little later. He definitely wasn't a first-round pick. That's a guy we had extremely high on our board 2 years ago, I believe it was. Cam Jurgens, right? He was handpicked by Philadelphia, I think, in the second or third round to replace Kelsey. And it looks like they hit in terms of a pass blocking efficiency grade there, although 66.0 isn't a great PFF grade. But you see what I'm saying? Luke Wattenberg, Jake Andrews, Aaron Brewer, Ryan Nuzell, Ryan Kelly, Ted Karras. You hear some of these names, right? And you're thinking, okay, where were they drafted? It's not impossible to go in the second round and get a solid center. We could have had Creed Humphrey in the second round. We just crapped the bed, swung and missed, right? We went with Josh Myers over here. So again, that's the quick breakdown on Elton Jenkins. I'm curious to know what everybody thinks in the comments. If you're watching this back later, let us know. How do you feel about Elton Jenkins? What's the number you would put on him? Maybe it's a little higher than 10. Maybe you would go 15. Maybe you wouldn't even pay 10 average cap, right? Maybe it's something, 5 million is the most I would go per year. Let us know in the comments what you think. Hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you don't miss out on future live streams. Let's get to the super chats. We'll wrap this thing up. Jerry, thank you so much for the super chat. I shut down all my NFL content after a disgusting wild card loss, but had to come back to see the Bears still suck post today. Hilarious. See you for the draft. Thank you so much, Jerry. And listen, I know there's a portion of the fan base that feels like Jerry can't take it, can't handle it. That collapse towards me. I'm going to step away. Completely get it. We will be here every day. When you get ready to come back, Jerry, we will be here every single day talking Packers football. Respect the fact that you need a break, though. Completely get it. Completely get it. Thank you so much for the super. Nick McSwain with the super chat. McDermott as DC. LOL. Did he get fired, Nick? Oh, we may have some breaking news. Let me take a quick look. And this is great podcast here. When you guys hear me try to fill the void, there it is. We got it. Thank you so much, Nick. Appreciate the update. Let's go straight to our correspondent, Nick McSwain, with the breaking news here. I can't hit the soundbar. I'm trying to pull Twitter up. Apologize, guys. Here it is. Tom Pelissero, Bills fired Sean McDermott. Sources tell the insiders. Now, would he be a top candidate? I'm not going to take the time to dive into the numbers to see how the Bills defense was this year. I think it was kind of bad, Nick. And this is another example, guys. You guys hear me say offensive-minded head coach, defensive-minded head coach. This was a defensive-minded head coach. And what have they constantly had to do? They've constantly had to recycle offensive coordinators through their system, right? So you hire a defensive coordinator as your head coach, and they have made it to the playoffs how many years and gotten knocked out of the playoffs over and over and over and over and over and over again. It doesn't mean every defensive-minded head coach is not going to be a good coach. It just seems like there's a lower percentage chance of hitting on one of those guys as your head coach, right? So would I want him as DC? I mean, he was good enough as a defensive coordinator, Nick, in Carolina to obviously get a head coaching job. Possibly, right? Possibly. I imagine he's going to be at least in the top 10 of candidates, maybe top 5. He definitely wouldn't be my top choice. You guys know how I kind of feel about this. There's several guys. We got to wait for the coaching carousel to kind of unfold before we can really kind of zero in, you know. Perfect scenario for me would be Brian Flores. He's probably going to get a head coaching job, right? So if you throw that one out the window, same thing applies to Vance Joseph. Vance Joseph, he's going back to Denver if he doesn't get a head coaching job, so he's kind of off the table, right? Same thing with the Houston Texans defensive coordinator. Same thing with the Seattle Seahawks defensive coordinator. You can't make a lateral move. They don't get a head coaching job. They're going back to their respective. The interesting thing about Brian Flores is he's a free agent, right? So, and I actually did a poll question. Let's end it with this. And again, thank you so much for that breaking news there, Nick. I did a poll question, guys. Remember we talked about Jim Leonhard the other day? We talked about former Wisconsin Badger Jim Leonhard. Now, be very clear here. His name got brought up when we hired Jeff Hafley. I did not want Jim Leonhard as the defensive coordinator when we hired Jeff Hafley. And here's the reason. We hadn't seen enough at the NFL level. Like, you're talking about a guy who's done nothing at the NFL level as a coach. And I know he had some success in college, it sounded like, and he went to, I think, Illinois State and was some kind of, I can't remember what it was, analyst or something or whatever. And then he goes to Denver this year, and he's the secondaries coach and the passing game coordinator. What does that mean? You've got Vance Joseph as the defensive coordinator. Sean Payton handpicked Jim Leonhard as his secondary coach and passing game coordinator. Their passing defense finished second best in the league. Second best in the league. Patrick Surtain, he won the AP Defensive Player of the Year. Okay. Now they've got good edge rushers, a lot of things that come into play here. But now I'm to the point where, okay, Jim Leonhard went to the NFL. The portion of his responsibility in that awesome Denver Bronco defense excelled this year. I'm open to it. That's one of my top choices. I threw a tweet out. Again, he's not my top choice. B-Flow is. And there's a couple other guys I probably like a little bit more, right? So I threw a tweet out about Jim Leonhard, and he got loud in the comments. There was a bunch of people. I'm so tired of people talking about Jim Leonhard. The only reason you want Jim Leonhard is because he's a Wisconsin Badger fan. I'm not a Badger fan. I pull for him because I got a lot of friends that are Badgers fans, obviously doing a Packers podcast. I pull for him, but I'm not a diehard Badgers fan, right? I'm simply looking at, here's a name that keeps surfacing. Okay, he was a great football player at Wisconsin. He was I think a very good football player in the NFL. He goes into coaching in Wisconsin, has some success, was interim head coach, led him to a 3-2 record down the stretch, got him bowl eligible. Well, I think everybody, all the Badger fans will be happy with that right now, having that kind of little bit of momentum, right? And then he goes to Illinois State. and then he gets he gets a job in the NFL as a passing game coordinator, and he does really well, right? So I'm to the point now where it's like, okay, man, this makes sense. There were several people in there that were raking him over the coals, and it surprised the absolute crap out of me. I'm like, I thought you guys liked Jim Leonard. And those same people, the 2 or 3 that commented, were no, we don't. He turned us down last time and this and that. Now, there was a rumor that Jim Leonard turned the job down because Mike Pettin told him to. Mike Pettin and Jim Leonard have a close relationship, right? I have not found anyone that can find me any proof that that's true. Okay. I don't want to say who mentioned it because it makes it sound like I'm accusing them of lying. That's not the case. But the question is, why did Jim Leonard turn it down? Well, it came back that he wanted to get the job at Wisconsin. That's what he wanted to have. Okay. So there's some mixed reviews, mixed facts, if you will. There's not been anything that's substantial that says he turned down the Packers defensive coordinator job because Mike Pettin told him don't go coach for LaFleur. So Ed Werder put a tweet out that said, hey, Jim Leonard might be a possible candidate in Green Bay. That was LaFleur's top choice last time. Looks like Matt LaFleur had 2 pretty damn good choices in Jeff Hafley, who I think was a success overall. And then Jim Leonard goes on. That was actually his top choice. He goes on and he, has success there in Denver, right? Later on in his career. So it said he wanted to return to college. Now, Matt picked Joe Barry, and I know that seems to be a big swing and a miss. You guys know my opinion on that, and it's not a popular one. I'm sorry, but if Joe Barry had Xavier McKinney and Evan Williams and Edgerrin Cooper on his defense, that would be a whole different story with Joe Barry. There's no one who's going to convince me otherwise, right? Again, it's easy to say Jeff Hafley did a great job and Joe Barry sucks at his job when Joe Barry had Darnell Savage and Jonathan Owens at safety and did not have Edgerrin Cooper at stack backer either, right? Javon Bullard took a step forward this year, right? So with all that being said, who was our nickel back at that time? I think it was Keyshawn, right? Keyshawn was our slot corner at that time. So there's just more to the equation than others. But I put a poll question up, right? And sure enough, same as the Fire Matt LaFleur crowd that got really loud. I'm going, dang, boy, the Packer fan base wants him gone. We did a poll question, and it was anywhere from 65 to 85% of the fans wanted LaFleur back. So it was just an extremely, extremely, extremely loud minority. Same thing with this Jim Leonard thing. Jim Leonard, 76.2% off 685 votes, says they would prefer Jim Leonard over DeMarcus Covington. Okay. And that I put that up there because DeMarcus Covington seems to be the Packer fan favorite from promotion within. If you go outside of the building, maybe Jim Leonard wouldn't be leading, but I'm like, man, they really hate Leonard. Let's see if they'd rather have Leonard or Covington. 76% of the fan base said they would prefer to hire Jim Leonard than promote DeMarcus Covington to DC if indeed or when our boy Jeff Hafley actually goes and gets the head coaching job in Miami, which should come down to Pac any day now with these other candidates becoming available. They'll get those second interviews in-person interviews in with some of these coordinators that are obviously now eliminated from the playoffs. And we're going to keep our finger on the pulse there. Let me know in the comments, what do you think about McDermott? Okay. I want to know what you guys think in the comments. You're watching this video back later. Would you rather have McDermott, Leonard, okay, or would you rather have Covington as your next defensive coordinator? This would be a fun little question. I may ask that in a poll question on X as well. But let us know in the comments what you think about that. Make sure you hit like, subscribe, click the bell icon so you're notified when we go live in the future. We're going to go ahead and wrap up there, guys. Appreciate everybody jumping in here. If you would, the best way to support what we do here at PTA, patreon.com/Packer Fan Total Access. Ton of content going out over there. Going to have even more draft coverage going out. You get access to our draft board where you can sort each individual column, kind of see how we break down the draft every year. You get access to that. $3 get you access to everything over there. It's the best way to support what we do. Now, if you feel more comfortable supporting here on YouTube, want to be a member, that's totally cool too. But we greatly appreciate everybody jumping in here and talking Packers and specifically Bears collapse today. So we'll probably be live later today if we have any kind of news break. So keep your eye on that. And we will go live as soon as something does come down to Pac. If Hafley gets a job or the Packers have another interview for DC, any of that information, we'll make sure we get you guys that in real time. That's why it's important to make sure you hit like, help boost the algorithm, make sure you're subbed to the channel, and you can click that bell icon. So whenever we do go live with breaking news, you'll get buzzed right to your phone. Oh, Clayton went live with PTA. Oh, crap. We hired a defensive coordinator. That'll help if you got that stuff clicked. So greatly appreciate everybody in the chat. You guys were awesome. Everybody have a wonderful day. We'll talk to you in a couple hours. My name's Clayton. This is PTA. Go Pack Go.
Here we go.
Bye, guys.